In this episode of the Locked On NBA Big Board podcast, we have a big episode for you, a special episode, because James is here to drop his post-NBA Combine mock draft. Big shout out to each and every person that has made the Locked On NBA Big Board podcast your first listen of the day. I'm your host, Rafael Barlowe, along with my co-host, who happens to be my younger brother, James. And this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. And if you are not subscribed to the Locked On NBA Big Boy YouTube channel, please subscribe, like, share, comment, and click the bell so you can be notified every time we drop an episode, because we are coming at you 5 days a week, and that's at the minimum. Sometimes you may get 6 or 7 episodes in a week. That's because we love the NBA draft, and June is right around the corner, which means we are within 3.5 weeks until the 2025 NBA draft. We've been talking about this class since August, so looking forward to draft day so we can move on to 2026, but also just see like all the hard work and the effort that we put into evaluating these prospects and talking about them, just seeing that special day come for those prospects. All right, let's get right into it. So James, we were there at the Combine, and the Combine ended a week ago or so. Just what were like your overall finishing thoughts about your first NBA Combine experience? Was there anything that you learned or anything that really just stood out to you about that experience?
It's definitely a who's who of just basketball. Like we mentioned before in previous podcasts, all the NBA personnel is there. A lot of college coaches are there too. And then just getting to see guys, interact with each other. Like we were in the hotel basically all week. And it's like, oh, there's, so-and-so. And they're just, walking around, moving around as normal people. All the guys that we did get to speak to, everybody was, cool and friendly. And then, got to meet some people and had some interesting stories. So I had fun. Can't wait I can wait, but looking forward to next year's Combine too. And, running it back. And from an evaluation standpoint, it is also good. And I wish more guys would have played in the scrimmages, but that was also very good to see too.
Yeah, I mean, it's been happening for years. The top players are choosing to sit out. There were some interesting players.
Like, I think in the 30s who needed to play or could have helped themselves.
I mean, Rocco Zakarsky, I don't even know if he's in the 30s. He chose not to play. So there were quite a few players that chose not to play that I thought was pretty head-scratching. But let's talk about this mock draft. I'm still kind of shocked that the Dallas Mavericks got the number 1 pick, 1.8% chance. You have the Dallas Mavericks selecting Cooper Flagg. Real quick, how do you think Cooper Flagg, the projected number 1 pick, freshman from Duke, how do you think he's going to fit with the Mavericks lineup as is?
I mean, as is, I've mentioned that I thought Cooper Flagg was going to be a 3 at the NBA. And, I mean, it looks like he's definitely going to have to play the 3. I want to say I saw a line. I don't know how truthful it was, but they're going to maybe play him at the 2.
Yeah, I saw that.
Well, I mean, it's going to be a really big lineup. I think he is going to be fine either way because, again, he made those necessary strides to get better and morph into a wing. So I think it's going to work. But at least it's going to work for him. And I think he's going to be in a good situation. They got veterans, need a point guard, but I think Cooper Flagg is going to be fine in Dallas. It still doesn't seem real to me that he'll be at Mavericks, though.
So I've been thinking, is the Mavericks opening day starting lineup? I mean, we know Kyrie is going to be out. Will their opening day starting lineup be Najee Marshall at the 1, Cooper Flagg at the 2, PJ Washington at the 3, Anthony Davis at the 4, and Derik Lively at the 5? Is that what you think is going to happen?
I think that is the lineup unless you decide to move PJ for a point guard. But it's going to be some sort of those 3 or 4 guys because, I mean, you can move Gafford. He's due for a payday, and then I think PJ might have 2 years left. I have to look it up, but he's a tradable asset. I think you got to move one of those guys for a point guard. Even though as much as I like Najee Marshall, I don't think I want him playing point guard full time. But yeah, I'd have to move. Unfortunately, I like PJ a lot, but you know,
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting because if you move PJ, you figure he's a starter. If you move him for a point guard, that point guard that you move him for is probably not going to be a starter when the team is healthy. So that kind of makes it, at least for me, I think it's a little tricky. All right, let's move on to number 2. You have the San Antonio Spurs selecting Dylan Harper, the point guard from Rutgers. We talked about it briefly in the podcast last week. For those that missed it, what are your thoughts on Dylan Harper's fit with the San Antonio Spurs, with the roster as is? We know that there's the rumors for Giannis Antetokounmpo. I've had some people comment to me on the YouTube saying that they would not trade Dylan Harper and future picks for Giannis. They would rather the team develop organically. There's not enough shooting. But anyway, as is, we'll talk about Giannis when it happens or if it happens. But as is, what do you think about Dylan Harper's fit with the San Antonio Spurs?
You just got to make it fit. I just watched Oklahoma City play, and they make it work. And again, they have some older, scrappy guys like Lou Dort and Caruso, and then like Kaysen fits in seamlessly. But those guys are all 6'4" at the minimum. So if you can just go big guards with Harper, Fox, Castle, and then you still got Vassell and Keldon Johnson. I mean, I think they're gonna have to move some guys, but those three, you just you duel it out and see how it works. Maybe they decide to move off of Fox because he is the oldest of the three at 27.
You can't move off of Fox after you just traded for him.
I mean, you got the number 2 pick. You got the rookie of the year. I mean, eventually, like if you're San Antonio, as much of a Fox fan as I am, is he going to be able to? Who's going to play off the ball and make shots in that lineup? That's what I'm saying. And it's like, how much do you value Dylan Harper? I don't know how long you're going to be able to play all three of them together, considering none of those guys are like knockdown shooters right now, is what I'm saying. So again, whether or not you agree with it or not, like Fox has value. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, do you want to go young? Like, how realistic is the timeline? It's going to be interesting to see what San Antonio does.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be a no-brainer. I think they're going to take Dylan Harper. Sure. And then what happens after that, that's where it gets a little tricky. All right, the Philadelphia 76ers have the 3rd pick. You have them going with Ace Bailey. Explain why. Explain why you think the freshman from Rutgers, 6'7", not 6'10". We heard he was 6'10" all season. But, we'll give him 6'8.5", maybe even 6'9", if he plays in those GT forces.
I think that's what I don't like the cut on those shoes, man. But Ace Bailey at 3, I think he addresses wing concerns for them. And, in this role here, playing next to Tyrese, playing next to Embiid when he's there, like, I think his role fits perfectly for that team. You don't need him to make a bunch of plays. You really need him to put the ball on the ground, like space the floor, play off of Tyrese, play off of Embiid. Kelly Oubre is a free agent. I got to see what they're going to do with Quentin Grimes. They have a need for wing. Paul George is 35, 36. Like, it just makes too much sense. The Sixers end up in a really good spot because you can get a good player who should be able to contribute as far as, like, making shots and spacing the floor. And he gets to be what I think he is, a really, 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 really good third option until it's time for him to take that next step as a second option. And maybe he becomes the first option if he develops his ball handling and playmaking. As
of today, it is May 22nd. It'll be May 23rd when you hear this. My mind could change, but if I'm Philadelphia, I think I'm going with Tre Johnson at number 3.
Why? No. Again,
we can make a whole episode on that, but that's actually we'll do that. I know Leaf wants to get in on the conversation, so we're going to dedicate a whole episode to Tre versus Ace. But I think I would go with Tre. I mean, just briefly, better shooter, was more efficient as a shooter. And I think that if I needed to win a game right now, because if you're Philadelphia, yes, you're thinking about the future, but their timeline is short. Their timeline is short. I think Embiid is on borrowed time. I think Paul George, like you said, is on the wrong side of 35. So you probably need to go with somebody that's ready to contribute right away as a youngin. So that's why I would go with Tre Johnson. All right, up next, we're going to talk about the number 4 pick, which is the Charlotte Hornets. James is going to explain who he believes the Hornets should take at number 4. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances. You got your major momentum shifts, and of course, your can't-miss moments, and we've had quite a few of those in the playoffs. So whether it is a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. And FanDuel makes it simple and easy to stay in the game before tip-off and when the game is live. With player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays, fans have more ways than ever to play smart and, more importantly, win big. So which players are showing up in the biggest moments, and how could tracking their trends help you? And also, what would it look like to combine live prop bets mid-game based on how the action unfolds? And if you've got a read on who's heating up, why not back it up with a same game parlay? And also, how could $200 in bonus bets add to the excitement if your first $5 bet wins? So if you are new to FanDuel, this is the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. And if it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. So make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, second segment, we are covering James Barlowe's post-NBA Combine mock draft. He has the Dallas Mavericks with a no-brainer pick with Cooper Flagg at number 1. He has the San Antonio Spurs selecting Rutgers' Dylan Harper at 2. And he has Harper's Rutgers teammate, Ace Bailey, going to the Philadelphia 76ers at number 3. I promise you, there is going to be an episode where we are going to debate the number 3 pick. James has Ace. I'm going with Trey. And then Leaf is going to join us. So stay tuned for that coming up soon. All right, the Charlotte Hornets, number 4 pick. If you are the Charlotte Hornets, what direction are you going in?
So I know the popular consensus pick here is VJ Edgecombe. I'm not as high on VJ Edgecombe. I do think this is a good spot for him, but I wouldn't particularly make that move. I think that the Charlotte Hornets need to select Khaman Maluach at number 4. It's time to move off the Mark Williams saga.
Hold on, I want to add to that.
Go ahead.
They have to move off the Mark Williams saga.
Yeah,
I mean, you can't trade him and then have him come back
Yeah.
and then sign him to an extension. You got to move off of him. But then I think if after you already seen a deal for him break down, what value are you going to get for him? Somebody's going to try to steal him for a little bit of nothing.
You're right, but at the same time, you can't overpay him, but he does have value. I think he was like 15 and 10 in 26 minutes a game. He's ultra productive, but
I saw Moses Brown give him like 22, and
that is true. I was at that game with you, but the problem is, he's defense is all right. Production is good. He has not played over 45 games in a season in 3 seasons. So you already got injury-prone LaMelo. And then you got an injury-prone big. You can't rely on Nurkic. I'm going to go with Maluach here, and we're going to reset the front court, starting off with an 18-year-old, 7'2", monstrous wingspan. And, while I do think Maluach could have more game than just being a rim runner, rim protector, I think for him, you play with LaMelo, you catch some fastballs, you should have an opportunity to have a productive career as long as LaMelo was there. That's why I went with Maluach here. And also, as I did post this on Twitter, my mock, VJ Esco, you got him dropping? I've said from the beginning of this draft, really from December on, 4 through 8 is interchangeable, and it's going to come down, at least in my opinion, to how the ping pong balls fall, and they fell this way. And I feel like Charlotte's biggest need is a center, and you can get potentially your defensive anchor with maybe some back to the basket game I know he's shooting the ball well in those drills. I don't really care about drill shooting, but I did see him take and make open jump shots in real life action over the summer. So that's why I'm going with my Tre for.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. You end up getting the Mark Williams replacement, the guy that does everything that you expected Mark Williams to do when you drafted him. You get him cheaper, younger, and hopefully healthier. So to me, that makes sense. I get why people want VJ Edgecombe. If I'm VJ Edgecombe at his camp, I want to go to Charlotte just because I think it's a good fit. There's not any pressure to be the man or carry the team. At best, you can come in if they keep Miles Bridges. You can just slide in as their fourth best player.
Right.
And if you're their fourth option, you could bring some real value there.
And I believe Charlotte is picking at 32 or 33. You can get a really good wing still in this draft at 32, 33.
Yep. All right. So the fifth pick goes to the Utah Jazz. Shout out to the Utah Jazz fans. I know it's rough. I know you're dreaming about Cooper Flagg, and for you to fall down to 5 it's got to be gut-wrenching and heartbreaking. But not all is lost. There's a guy that's going to BYU next year that is probably going to be the number 1 pick or number 2, maybe even number 3. And if you get lucky, you can get AJ Debinsa. If you don't get AJ, you might get Darren Peterson. If you don't get Darren Peterson, you might get Cameron Boozer. So if you're a Jazz fan, just be patient. But who do you have the Utah Jazz selecting at number 5?
So again, this one was tough. I went back and forth, deleted the mock a few times. I wanted to put Fears here, but ultimately I went with Tre Johnson. Tre Johnson, like you mentioned, 6'6", long arms. He gets to it. Probably the best shooter in this draft, self-creation. And I think, I look at the Jazz roster, they got a lot of smaller guards. And with Tre at 6'5", 6'6", he gives you some size at the 2. We know he can create his own shot. And I think he'll be better at least at getting to the basket in the NBA because of the spacing. And then, they got a good coaching staff. He'll be playing with other players. And again, if you not to necessarily say that Isaiah Collier's your point guard of the future, but Isaiah Collier is going to create all those paint touches. And then you got Tre doing his thing. I think he's going to be really a better passer. I've noticed, Rob, shout out to you. I mean, I told you, but shout out to you. Other people are starting to pick up that Tre Johnson can make plays. Like the playmaking is circulating around Twitter. But I went with Tre Johnson here. I don't really have an issue with going with Fears either, but I feel like Tre Johnson he still gives you all-star upside at 5. So you're not necessarily in a terrible spot. Now, some things do need to work for him as far as like getting to the basket, turn the corner, but I'm a big buyer in his ability to score the basketball.
Tre Johnson would have loved to have played with a point guard like Isaiah Collier at Texas, a downhill driver that is aggressive. Isaiah Collier is aggressive, but I feel like Tre did not get a lot of open looks. He had to create a lot of those threes, and he still shot 39% on 6 attempts per game at Texas. So I'm a big Tre Johnson guy. Like I said, I would take him at number 3. All right. At number 6, it is the Washington Wizards. If you're the Washington Wizards, who are you taking with the 6th pick?
At 6, I'm taking Derik Queen. It makes all the sense in the world. Almost a hometown kid. I feel like he can cover Sarr's flaws on the offensive end, and Sarr can cover his flaws on the defensive end. I think you get somebody you can play through in the half court. I'm a big believer in his offensive game. Again, I don't care about how he tested because, this is the NBA. This is not an athletic testing event for him. I mean, I just throw his combine stuff out the way and watch the tape. Like I said, I think he's the most skilled big in the draft. You may say Maxime. I think that, there isn't really anything that Derik Queen can't do on the offense. Again, the jump shot needs to improve, but you can give him the ball. He can create offense. He can pass. He can grab and go. I think that's a really good spot for him and the Wizards here. I think it's a no-brainer.
So you think Alex Sarr is a full-time 5?
I think Alex Sarr and Derik Queen are front court players that could play next to each other.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think they're both good passers. I think they kind of would represent the new NBA and the old NBA at the same time. It's a double big lineup, but you have 2 bigs that can pass, that can handle the ball in transition. you would think that both should be able to develop into respectable floor spacers. I think with Sar's rim protection, it will help Queen out on the defensive end. And then you could just run 4 or 5 pick and rolls. I mean, there's so many options,
So many options.
there. But I actually like that move. I'm a Blazers fan, and I was thinking about a similar situation if Queen is available when Portland is picking. But I was thinking about a Queen Donovan Clingan 4-5 pick and roll because Clingan does some of the same things that Sar would do, like you mentioned, as far as kind of clean up if Derik Queen is
Listen,
not the best defender
right.
or he struggles on defense.
I tell you what, that Bub Carrington Queen 2-man game could be very, very good in a few years.
All
Very
right,
good.
up next, we are going to wrap up James's top 10, and then I'm just going to give him some rapid fire questions about some of the players that he has mocked and where they're mocked at on his latest mock draft. All right, last segment. So we left off with the 6th pick. You had the Washington Wizards selecting Derik Queen. All right, who do you have the New Orleans Pelicans selecting at number 7?
So the Pelicans, I got them going with Jeremiah Fears. I'm a big Jeremiah Fears fan. I think Jeremiah Fears is one of the handful of guys that has, if everything goes right, for him, all-star upside. And I toyed with him going at 5. Don't really like the fit in Washington, but in New Orleans, they do have a need for point guard. Jonathan Murray's out with Achilles injury. Who knows when he'll be back? CJ McCollum is older. I think you move him at the deadline because he does have value as a 6th-man combo guard. And then Jeremiah Fears is there. Again, talking about point guard, get to the rim at will, handles. It's just a different dynamic, how it works next to Zion. You got 2 guys constantly putting pressure on the rim. That would be very hard to handle. Then you got shooters like Trey Murphy, Jordan Hawkins. I think this fit is good for him. He gets the ball in his hands right away, and he can make plays and also still develop as he does have some room to grow because he is only 18 years old.
Yeah, I like the fit. In the perfect world for me, if you're the Pelicans, Fears is available. You take him, you let him learn from DeJounte and CJ for half a season. Somehow get CJ in Orlando. I think CJ would be a really good fit in Orlando where he doesn't have to be your table setter, but he does provide Orlando with some outside shooting and scoring in the backcourt. So I would love that for Jeremiah Fears. All right. Here's one for you. You have the Brooklyn Nets at number 8, and you have them selecting Baylor's VJ Edgecombe. Now,
Yes.
Edgecombe is a guy whose name is thrown around as a potential top 3 pick at Philadelphia. You have him at number 8. Explain why he's at number 8 on your mock and what he would bring to the Brooklyn Nets.
So again, I go with, I know you want to take the best player available, but at the same time, I don't think there's a huge gap between anybody between 4 and 8. It's going to come down to what do you think this person provides versus the next person. In Brooklyn, VJ Edgecombe gets an opportunity to play with freedom. He did measure well, which is very good. I thought he was going to measure at about 6'2" and some change. He is actually 6'4" barefoot, so he's going to play at 6'5". I think in Brooklyn, you move some pieces around and you give him the ball, and then you figure out, all right, man, let's see if we can work on that handle. Because, again, his handle isn't the strongest. And if we're going to talk about these other guards that I have going ahead of him, namely Jeremiah Fears and Tre Johnson, his handle is the weakest, but it's not broken. So he gets a chance to develop. You get somebody who, is going to, I guess you could say, good character guy, someone you can build around. And also you have, 3 other picks? So you can basically come with a new team like the Wizards did last year. You have 4 first-round picks, start VJ Edgecombe, probably take a point guard a little later, and then your future is set, and also you're still in place for the 2026 NBA draft.
All right, number 9, you got the Toronto Raptors going with French prospect Noah Essengue. What would make Raptors fans excited about Essengue if he ends up falling to them? I shouldn't say falling. If he ends up being selected by the Raptors at number 9, why should they be excited about Noah?
18 years old, ultra productive. He's playing in the playoffs right now for his team. uh, Radio Farm on. He has things to figure out. He is raw, but he's a raw player, but I do think he can contribute right away. Now, do I think that he is close to his final form? Absolutely not, because he's just out there being productive. I think in a few years he doesn't look like what he is now, but I expect him on the NBA court come September, October. Like, he'll be somebody that's going to finish plays, play hard, rebound. He's going to get fouled. He's just going to be productive. And again, he's only 18, so he's a couple years away, but also he could contribute if that makes any sense.
He is a Toronto Raptors type pick. Long,
Yeah.
athletic. They just love these long arm, positionless guys. Like, I mean, I do think he is somewhat positionless. Maybe so a 3-4, but not really strong enough to play the 4. Doesn't space it well enough to be a 3 right now. But he's just, I mean, for lack of a better term, he's just a hooper. Just put him out there. He's gonna get rebounds. He's gonna score in transition. He's gonna make timely cuts. We were there at a game. What did he finish with? Like 33 and 17 or something like that.
He missed like 8 free throws, and I want to shout him out. I think he's made, somebody posted, he's made his 15 in a row from the free throw line. Like, he's improving as a shooter. Excuse me. He has a ways to go, but he's going to be somebody that, you look up, he plays 20 minutes a night or however, and he's going to finish with 7 and 4 and 2 and block a shot, get steal. He plays the passing. Like, he's good right now, but he does have a lot of room to grow.
Yeah, he's one of my higher upside guys. I mean, he's only scratching the surface of his potential. And again, he's been productive in Germany's top league, a team that could compete for a shot at the finals in Germany. And he did this while spending the first half of the season at 17 years old. All right. At number 10 is the Houston Rockets. This is a tough one. Like, when you look at this draft and you look at the players available, it's like, who can come in and crack the Houston Rockets rotation? It's kind of like what I said about OKC in my mailbag episode. But anyway, with that being said, who do you have the Rockets selecting at number 10?
So I got the Rockets taking Knueppel at 10. Can Knueppel crack the rotation? I think he can, because he is going to – I'm not going to say he's going to be food on defense, but he's going to compete. And the Rockets they struggled to score at times. He's going to be somebody who I think can obviously knock down shots. That's what we fully expect him to make open jumpers. And also in the 2-man game with Sengun, I think he can make plays. I think it will be tough at first, but he's just gonna do the stuff that Ime is gonna ask of him. And I think this is a good spot for him at 10, because he is somebody who I think can contribute early. Again, high IQ guy, make open shots, and the Rockets need scoring. And also, like, Dillon Brooks, he's got a funny contract, right? Or maybe you take Knueppel here at 10 and say we're going to package him. But he does have value around the league. Some other people have him a little higher. That's a little too high for my blood. But at 10, I think he can find a way to, crack that tough Rockets rotation, because he can knock down shots. And the Rockets were really close last year. They just needed scoring. And you can add potentially a 40% shooter who can also pass the ball. I think it works out.
Well, this is why I'm torn. You had the number 3 pick last year, couldn't crack the rotation. And some would say that point guard was probably the Rockets' thinnest position as far as depth.
Mm-hmm.
So with Knueppel, I don't know if he can crack the rotation. You can't get rid of Dillon Brooks if you're the Houston Rockets.
No, but in a couple of years, I think he has one more year after this year on his contract.
But he's like he's a very, very important piece to what they do. He kind of gives them their identity as like this irritant, this guy that just wants to go out and defend and play tough and play with physicality, and people don't like him. But I just think he is, I mean, outside of Alperen Sengun, I can make a case and say that Dillon Brooks is their second most important player, because he's the one that kind of gives them the identity. Doesn't always show up in the stat sheet, may not be their best scorer, but I think without him, there's a big decline.
So with the emergence of Amen Thompson, he took a huge jump. I think that speeds up the timeline to move on from Dillon Brooks. Not because Dillon Brooks isn't good. It's just that now you got somebody who's going to defend at that same level, Now let's replace him with somebody younger, cheaper. That's why I went with a wing here for the Rockets.
Yep, that's fair. All right, we cover your top 10 rapid fire.
All right.
Portland Trailblazers at number 11. Who do you have them taking and why?
So at 11, I had Portland taking Kasparas Jakucionis. Why? I think you move on from Anthony Simons. They need another guard in rotation. I think he can play next to Scoot, or he could be a backup to Scoot, or if you feel like Scoot hasn't done enough yet, he could be a table setter because you got playmaking wings in Denny Avdia, and you got. I'm a big fan of Shaden Sharp. He takes another jump. So that's why I got Jakucionis going there to Portland.
At number 12, you have the Chicago Bulls taking Washington State's Cedric Cowart. Why?
So this isn't a reaction to Cedric Coward's combine numbers or interview. Like, I've had Cedric Cowart as a first-round pick basically the entire year. And then, again, the film is really good. I know people are the 6 games, whatever. But Chicago needs a wing. They were playing Ayu Dosunmu at the 3 last year, and they need somebody who can defend. I think Cedric Cowart can defend, make shots. I think he can make plays, and I think he will emerge as a good enough scorer, depending on, how things go. So now the Bulls could look like Josh Giddey, 6'8", Kobe White's got good size, and now you add 6'6", long arms, and then you got Matas, and then you figure out what the heck to do at the 5 eventually. I think it makes sense. Maybe Cowart could be your new Jimmy Butler, where he starts off as a gritty, do-it-all guy, and he emerges into something else.
Okay. All right, Atlanta Hawks at number 13. You have them going with St. Joe's Rasheer Fleming. Why is Rasheer Fleming a good fit for the Atlanta Hawks?
Hawks need front court size. You probably need a 7-footer. I don't think you're going to get a 7-footer this early, but Rasheer Fleming has great measurables. I think he can play the 4 or the 5, and you can get at some point you could play 2 hyper athletic 4/5 men if you pair him with a healthy Jalen Johnson. Rasheer Fleming made 3-pointers at St. Joe's. I'm buying the jump shot. I'm buying the athleticism, and you get to play with Trae Young. Like, if I'm a 4 or a 5, like, please sign me up. Send me to Atlanta. I'm going to get dunks. I'm going to get every opportunity to get paid.
That's why I think this would be a good fit for Maxime Reynaud. He's a 7-footer.
Yeah.
The Hawks don't have a 7-footer. And speaking with Reynaud, he told me that he only caught 2 lobs all last season. I think for him being a good athlete, he's the type of guy that Trae Young would get him some easier lobs, find him. But, Rasheer Fleming shot 39% from 3, and I think he averaged like 2.9 stocks per game or something like that. So if you can get floor spacing and defense and rebounding, it's that's hard to pass up. All right. At number 14, you got the San Antonio Spurs, and we'll end on this one selecting South Carolina's Collin Murray-Boyles. How does he fit with San Antonio based off of their current roster?
Based off their current roster, you may look at him and say, he's like Sohan in a sense where we got to play him at the dunker spot because he can't shoot. But Collin Murray-Boyles adds another level of playmaking. While he doesn't space the floor, you need rotational, gritty guys to play alongside Victor Wembanyama. 6'6" and some change. If you're buying the Draymond comps, cool. But if he can't shoot, it's okay because we know Wembanyama is going to space the floor and he's going to be able to guard. I think he should be able to guard 1 through 5 in spurts. So it's like if you can have a rotation, if they don't decide to move anybody, but if you have a rotation of just scrappy Collin Murray-Boyles, Sohan's an irritant, and then you got Stretch Armstrong, Wembanyama behind you. Like, I feel like that is a good front court to start off with for a team that's on the rise.
That makes sense. I'm not the biggest Collin Murray-Boyles fans as far as like how his game fits in the NBA. He reminds me, and hear me out. Please hear me out before you make an assumption. He reminds me
of the audience.
The audience. He reminds me of Zion Williamson in a sense, meaning he's a 4. In order for you to get the best out of him, you probably need to pair him with a floor spacing 5 that can also protect the rim. Those guys are hard to find, but in San Antonio, they have that. Now, I think if you put Collin Murray-Boyles in a lineup with another 5 that doesn't space the floor, then that's when the lane can get a little bit clogged up and your guards are going to be looking at you like, dang, man, I got to take these pull-up jumpers because they're camping in the paint. But actually like that fit, I mean, it probably wouldn't be my choice there, but the fit does make sense. Well, that wraps up this episode of the Locked On NBA Big Board Podcast. We covered James's lottery picks in his post-NBA Combine mock draft. Let us know your thoughts. Which players did James pick that you think is an absolutely great choice, and which ones did you think like, man, this dude is tripping? Let us know in the YouTube channel. Again, this is all fun. Once again, thank you for making this your first listen of the day. We are out of here.